The expected future picture of Archie and Lilibet, Harry and Meghan's children. Are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex likely to change our perception of their leaving? That is the content in today's newsletter. One thing we can say for certain all royal children are raised to understand is how to act around the king and queen. Just look at Charlotte's adorable curtsy to her grandfather at the coronation rehearsal. Now, if Archofficial and Invisibet ever so happen to set foot in the UK, it's going to be a whole new world to them. They won't have the first idea about how to act as grandchildren of the king. Now, if Lilibet's taught to curtsy, it's going to be her mother's ridiculously mocking, disrespectful parody. That's what she's going to learn. They're not going to have anything in common with the Wales kids. In fact, they're a lot closer to their Tyndall second cousins. If, on the other hand, they stay in the US, they're probably going to have a really lonely existence, isolated from both their Markle relatives and apparently kept away from making friends with other kids, too. It's going to be very interesting to watch and see what happens when and really if they ever begin school. And I'm not going to be a bit shocked if it's announced that they're going to be homeschooled. I predict that's exactly what we're going to hear. You know me, I have my serious doubts that these two kids even exist. But I do want to correct one thing. I mean, the Sugars love to act like we hate those children. We don't hate the kids. Nobody has said that they hate the kids. Most people just want to see them. People are naturally curious. What toys do they like to play with? Are they into sports? Do they like art? Is Lilibet already enrolled in ballet class? We all enjoy watching other people as they grow up, and it would be lovely to see these kids as well. But the sad thing is, the Sussex children are being raised without being taught the traditions and the customs. And let's forget about the history of the UK. Meghan Markle certainly wasn't willing to learn, so now she's stopping her own children from doing so, again, assuming they're even real. They live in America, so of course they're going to learn U.S. history, a history in which a country fought a war to leave the colonization and exploitation that the British people were imposing upon them, which, by the way, continued until the burning of the White House. So, how could anybody wonder then why our perspectives are significantly different? I mean, look, I have so many British friends, and I do think there are so many wonderful things about Britain. So, there are certainly parts of British history that are not such a good thing, nothing to be proud of. They exist, I guess they're Harry and Meghan's children. But are they actually Harry and Meghan's children? Were they adopted? The state of California has already questioned Archofficial's birth certificate when it came to school enrollment. I don't know that Harry and Meghan are going to have any choice but to homeschool at this point. Now, if the kids are real and if they're being kept away from other kids their age, they're going to grow up seriously messed up. They won't be able to have stable relationships. They won't even be able to get jobs. And I suspect they might have some very interesting and probably very inappropriate sexual habits. See, think about how we learn how to act, how we learn how to behave. Well, we learn that by mixing with people of our own age in social settings. And it all begins with school. But remember, Harry and Meghan have an incredibly high turnover rate when it comes to their employees. The kids are not going to have any real stable influences in their lives, just lots of really disturbed adults coming and going. And it's also been rumored that there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of drug abuse going on in that household. The kids are going to grow up believing that that's normal. It's tragic. To be honest, their lives are going to be what their parents want them to be until they're old enough to choose their own path. They live in the US, they don't live in Britain. Their lives and the lives of their cousins could not be more different. When and if they finally come to meet their British relatives, I'm certain they will have been told what the correct protocol is. I would hope so. Honestly, there's a lot of speculation right now, and maybe it's not all that useful. The most important question, as I see it, is has anyone really even seen the alleged children? I'm talking about in real life, not photos. All that has been shown up to this point are those photoshopped photos. I mean, they're clearly not real, or they'll be really blurry sometimes too. But nobody has ever reported seeing the kids out and about with parents like you would see with normal families. There was some footage, I assume it was from a drone or something, in their backyard, and it shows a total lack of children's toys. You don't see a swing set. Never have they been seen going for a walk in the neighborhood with either parent. Now, there's that recent fake photo when they were supposedly on vacation, and it shows Meghan Markle carrying a child who was way too young for the supposed Lilibet. And then we saw a photo of Harry holding the same child off in the distance. So once again, I suspect it's a rent-a-kid situation. We only have these really blurry or distant photos of some kids, and usually they don't even have the same characteristics. This whole paranoia about safety is absurd, especially considering the fact that Harry himself bragged about killing 25 members of the Taliban in Afghanistan. They just spew all kinds of BS, and then they cry that the royal family is refusing them security. And at the same time, the Wales children are going to school every day. They go to the shop with their mother. They attend events. The Wales children are so much more important than Harry and Meghan's kids. That's something Harry and Meghan cannot accept. So that explains all the crazy, delusional behavior that we see from those two. So, another topic to discuss, are there any unknown factors about Harry and Meghan's choice to step back as senior members of the royal family that could perhaps change our perceptions of their departure? To tell you the truth, I don't think they necessarily chose to step back. I suspect they pitched a fit about Archofficial not receiving a title when he was born. And the Queen refused to do a whole new special patent just for their child like she did for William's. And remember, to Meghan Markle, titles are everything. So she didn't want to have to wait for Charles to become king. She wanted the titles right then. She married Harry and she assumed that she would be a bigger star than Catherine. Ridiculous. She thought she was gonna be a Disney princess. She thought she would get to live out her days in a palace, wearing these big, gorgeous, glorious gowns and these big fancy tiaras filled with diamonds. She thought she'd get to ride around with all the security and travel all around the world. She didn't want to do any work for that, though. And she didn't want to have to wait for Archofficial's title either. She didn't want to be second to Catherine, and she didn't want her kids to be second to the Wales children. She whined and complained about no title for her child, and really, she just wanted equal footing with Catherine. So she wanted to get all the privileges and all the rights of the future queen. Of course, none of that was ever going to happen. So Meghan, like a toddler, pitched a fit in the floor, and then she started bullying staff, and she was vicious. She bullied poor little Princess Charlotte. She was incredibly rude to foreign dignitaries. The list of her examples of misbehavior go on and on. The queen actually needed to be called in on two separate occasions to speak to Meghan. This is just not acceptable if you are a royal. So the queen gave them an ultimatum, and they said, well, we're going to leave. And when she didn't give in to their demands, well, they had to step down. If their leaving really had been what they wanted, and if it had been all their idea, then we would never have heard a peep from them. There would not have been any Oprah Winfrey interview, wouldn't have been anything at all. They would have just focused on their hobbies and their charities, and they would have gotten on with life. But obviously, things did not work out like that. Seems to me that Meghan Markle expected titles for children that aren't even real. And remember, she wanted William more than Harry so that she could someday be queen. She wanted to show the queen how to do her job. And she just assumed because she was American, she was somehow better than the royal family. Meghan Markle is so cheap. She's so trashy. And she is the most vain person on the planet. She's a total failure. She has no talent whatsoever. We can add to that the fact that Meghan expected that she should live in Windsor Castle. Of course, that request was denied. It was insane. And that was just another thing for her to complain about. But I also remember her and Harry claiming that they didn't even want a title for the baby. They wanted to raise him as just a normal, ordinary kid. They didn't want him to be trapped as a royal. So when exactly did they change their minds? Well, the fact is, they didn't change their minds. This was always what they wanted. And it was their way of saying, oh, well, I didn't want it anyway, so there. I mean, I'm telling you, these two are about as emotionally mature as a 3-year-old. I mean, like a little child pitching a fit. And Meghan Markle is also a big fan of blackmail. If she doesn't get what she wants, either she's going to pitch a fit or she's going to threaten to tell some information that may or may not even be true. She has done all of that. And what about the rumor that she was actually deported? Well, it's something I've been hearing a lot these days. And it certainly does add some credence to Harry's insistence that the royal family needs to apologize to them. According to the rumor, Meghan was found taking photos in places she wasn't supposed to be. Apparently, some of those photos were taken of Charlotte in her bedroom. I think there are so many things that we don't know. But anyway, this whole saga with the invisible children, it needs to be dealt with right now. All right, folks, that's all for this analysis revolving around the topic of expected future images of Archie and Lilibet, Harry and Meghan's invisible children. Possible for Harry and Meghan to change our perception of their leaving. What do you think about our reviews and comments? And is your personal opinion the same as ours? Please leave a comment to let us know below. And then don't forget to support us with a like, share, and subscription to the channel. Goodbye for now, and I'll be back to see you again soon.